Welcome to the WET Podcast, episode number 17. Today I'm talking to Chrstine Frazier of the Better Novel Project. We have a really nice interview. We talk about the writing process, her project, the Better Novel Project, which is really cool. Young adult novels, all kinds of interesting things. I'm going to keep the intro short today, but I just want to tell you, you can find the show notes at ericmarshall.net/wet. You can find me on Twitter at emarsh. The podcast has a Twitter handle, WET Podcast, and I finally caved, and I made a Facebook page. So if you want to like the podcast on Facebook, it's facebook.com/wetpodcast. So, and I'll post new episodes there and stuff like that. So I figured I might as well have a presence on Facebook, so now I have a presence on Facebook. And as always, I do appreciate reviews on iTunes. So if you do listen on iTunes, or even if you don't, give it a search, click the little stars, maybe write a sentence or two. I really appreciate it. Helps me get found and whatnot. And that's about it. One more thing before I go into the interview, I should probably tell you. For some reason, I think I had my mic gain too high on the interview, so it's not loud, but it just kind of overloads a little bit when I talk. It's kind of, I don't know. I notice it. You might notice it. I've done 30 podcasts of the other podcast. That's a wrap. 17 of this, and every week it's something different. So it's certainly listenable. It's totally fine. I just thought I'd warn you that I had some gain problems, some volume problems. So whatever. It's a great interview. It's worth listening to. Check it out. ericmarshall.net/wet, Twitter, emarsh. Thanks a lot. Welcome to the WET Podcast, episode number 17. I have with me today Chrstine Frazier of the Better Novel Project. Hi, Chrstine.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So I've been following you on Twitter for some time now, and I just got around to asking you onto the podcast. I was looking at your site. You had a guest post by Ashley Carlson, who was on episode, I don't know, one of my other episodes before, and I started looking through what you were doing in the Better Novel Project, and I find it absolutely amazing. So if you could you explain the Better Novel Project?
Sure. So Better Novel Project is where I post my research every week. The tagline is Deconstructing Best-Selling Novels, One Index Card at a Time. So basically, I've started with 3 extremely popular best-selling YA novels, Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, and Twilight, the first books of each. And each week, I've been pulling out one common element that they all have together, some element that they share. And then I write that element up on my index card and put it into this master outline that I've created. I call it the master outline, like it's basically something anyone can use, and it's listed all these different index cards. So that's what the project's about. Right now we're doing the YA books, but we will be moving on.
Okay. Do you are they literal index cards that you're writing on?
Yeah, I have index cards here that I use, but each week I will post a image of an index card with the element on it too.
How many index cards do you have right now?
It's a lot.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I think, actually, I'm not sure how many are in the actual outline. I mean, I would say there's at least 50, probably way more, because sometimes they repeat. Yeah. I think there's one for when the hero changes clothes as a symbolic part of the journey, and that happens several times, the beginning, the end, middle.
Right. So what made you decide to do this? What got you started on this?
Well, It's kind of a long story. I really wanted to write a novel, like a lot of people. And when I decided I finally kind of had time to devote my creative energy to it, I sat down and there was this blank screen in front of me, and it was entirely intimidating. I just saw the flashing cursor, and I was like, what to do? Because in undergrad, I studied creative writing, but I always focused on short stories, which are much more character-driven, and you don't need a huge overarching plot. You can just get this slice of life and move on. So the idea then of creating an entire novel became so intimidating that I basically was ready to quit before I started. So then I decided that this would be a lot easier if I had some sort of structure to go on, because I felt comfortable with writing prose, with writing small scenes. I just felt like I needed a bigger picture to know what it went in. And I felt the best way to do that would be to look at these other novels and see how they did it. So I started making this little spreadsheet at home, and then I think I decided I was doing so much work, I was like, maybe I should start posting this online.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So you, I'm still in awe of this. So you started, so did you start with the Harry Potter books?
Just the first of Harry Potter, the first Hunger Games, and the first Twilight.
Right. So when you started the first Harry Potter, did you read chapter 1 and you just started writing down plot points, stuff like that?
Well, so first of all, I had never read Harry Potter before or any of these books, and I know a lot of people think that's crazy. I just had never, kind of in undergrad, I felt I was almost too snobby for them. I was like, oh, those are very popular. I'm above this. And then once I let down my, academic pretend, I don't know what you call it, but once I just accepted that these are really fun novels, I really learned to appreciate what was in them. And I mean, they are popular, but that doesn't mean that they're bad.
Right.
Which is kind of a different view when you're in school. So I started I read each of them. Actually, I read them. I do most of my reading through audiobooks, so I listened to all of them. And then I don't know how I made a big spreadsheet of the chapters, and then I was trying to line up things that happened. Chapter one, looked across all three, what happens here.
Oh, okay. So I get it. So you read them all, the first of each of those, and then you're like, okay, chapter one. What do they have in common?
Right, but then that's probably what I did the very first step. But I don't do that anymore. I mean, now I will think of just something will come into my mind, and I will think, oh, I've seen that in the other book. Okay. I haven't written a post about it yet, but I keep thinking about how in each book, at some point, they kill a large animal. I don't know why that would be an important plot point, but it's something to think about. I mean, in Harry Potter, that unicorn is killed in the forest. In the Hunger Games, she kills those mutations. And it's a weird element. I mean, why would they have those in common? So it's something to think about. But those don't happen. Those chapters might not line up right now, but I might choose a spot in my master outline for them. Right,
because it's a common element. It might take place sooner or later in those novels, but it's a common element towards the beginning. Right? Wow. Huh. I have a confession to make. I have not read the Harry Potter novels.
Okay.
I think part of it is the same thing that you have, the academic kind of almost snobbery, not to say that you're snobby, but I am. But part of it, I think, is that I don't know. I think they just passed me by in a way, So I haven't read them. I've seen some of the movies, but I haven't seen all of the movies. It never grabbed me for some reason. But I have read the Hunger Games. I have read the whole Hunger Games trilogy, and I've seen the movies so far. So I know those at least. So don't feel bad about not having read them when they came out, because I still haven't read them. So. Yeah,
without reading them, I wasn't really into the Harry Potter movies. I didn't get it. But I read the first one. You can read the first one in a day. I mean, you actually can. It's. I mean, I probably read it. I don't know how many times I would say I've read it now, cumulatively. But it's a very quick read and it's fun. Now I'm up to number 6, so I'm listening to that one right now.
Okay. Yeah, I probably will read it. I'll get around to it at some point. It's just so just thought I'd throw that out there for you. You're not
Yeah.
alone on that. So.
Well, people aren't very conscientious about spoilers. People keep telling me things about people who
Right.
died, and I'm like, no, I'm not there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you think I'm just thinking like so these books like they're common there's common elements they're wildly popular with young adult audiences obviously, right? So you're
Right.
trying to deconstruct what makes them work in order to hopefully either replicate it or figure out what elements you might want to make a popular novel yourself, right? That sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, I doubt that these authors are copying from each other, but that's certainly possible, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the out of
I
these
mean,
three, Harry Potter was first. So
you're right, right. So people might have said, "Oh, Harry Potter," and then everyone starts doing the same thing. But I guess that's kind of irrelevant, right? Because they are all, like you said, wildly popular, and there's not necessarily overlap between them, right? I think the
right.
Hunger
Yeah. The
Games.
thing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very different stories. So I think that's what's so cool is finding the common elements, is knowing that you can use these elements but have a different story on top
Hmm.
of the framework. And I don't think that, I mean, a lot of storytelling, even outside of this project, has common elements. Like, I mean, on the very simplest level, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 of,
Hmm.
plays, like beginning, middle, end. That it seems obvious, but it's something we're very used to. And there's other methods like, I mean, I've talked a little bit about on my site about the hero's journey, and Joseph Campbell and the hero of the Thousand
Hmm.
Faces. And that's a structure I've looked to in shaping my analysis.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes
I
sense.
mean, and that
I
goes
mean,
back
because for a long time,
forever.
yeah, yeah, exactly. The Russian structuralists and people even from over a century ago are like, oh, there are 7 stories, right? Or something like that. And like some people say there are only 3 stories, or only and most stories we read is the same story. It's somebody wants something. There's something in their way. They have to overcome that obstacle, and they either succeed or they don't. That's just every story ever written, right? But that's too
Right.
simplistic, right? When you're sitting in front of your cursor with the screen, right? so
Right.
so you've taken it to a whole different level. Like you've taken it, like to this, like this is a pretty massive project, right? And you've taken it to the level of okay, these are all of the common elements, or at least as many as you can find, right? And like for someone just coming to your site, it could take a long time to get through that site because you have so much great material in there. You're really like drilling down into this,
Thanks.
like what makes these it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
So,
I didn't intend
yeah.
for it to be so thorough in the beginning. Like, I
Mhm.
actually didn't know what it would be. But mostly when I would find an element, I would have trouble writing the post, and then I would realize that this I was looking at it too broadly, and I had to go smaller. So in order to make
Um,
something 1,000 words, I mean, I don't expect readers to hang on longer than 1,000 words in general. So
right. Yeah.
in order to get down there, I kept going smaller and smaller.
I see. Okay. Yeah, because after 1,000 words on the web, people are gonna, right? Maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
too long,
interesting.
didn't read.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. When did you start the project?
I started it last year, right after Thanksgiving. It was the very end of November,
Okay.
2013.
So, 2013. Yeah, yeah. So this is only just over a year. Wow.
Wait.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. That's my weekend. I sit down
That's
and write.
that's your weekend. Yeah, that's fantastic. Um, so I'm still kind of like so you were in when you said you were a creative writing major, was that graduate school or undergrad or
Undergrad, I went to Johns Hopkins University,
okay.
and the major is technically called writing seminars. It's it's a weird name because a seminar refers to the style of class where there's
Right.
just 10 people. Actually, I saw that you have a film PhD, right?
I do, yeah. Mhm.
That's so cool. So when I was at Hopkins, the film program was kind of newer, and at the time it was still really intertwined with the writing seminars. So I could take film classes and count them as writing. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so I got to take some really cool film classes while I was there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, my our film department at Wayne State was in Detroit was in the English department, so it's very
Okay.
similar. Right? So to be a film PhD, you had to take other English courses as well, right? There
Oh,
weren't
that's
enough film
pretty nice.
courses. Yeah, so it's nice, right? So you get the writing and the
Mm.
critical analysis and all that stuff that you know and all that,
Yeah, the
which
English
is
was a
cool.
separate major, though.
Okay,
I don't know why, so it was English, writing, or film.
that is weird that English and writing would be separate, right?
Yeah, I guess the writing seminars was more about like the craft of creative writing and storytelling, whereas the English was analysis and
Gotcha,
essay.
gotcha. Yeah, one of the things that I have taught in the past and have studied is screenwriting, which is and that's kind of similar to what you're doing in a way because there's a very specific structure that most screenplays have to follow. Right, it's
Hmm.
the three act structure, but there's also like certain things that have to happen, and it's stuff like that. And that's what I try to teach my students in screenwriting classes. But like I said, it's nowhere near as specific as what you're doing, what you've been doing so far.
Do you use Save the Cat? I love that book.
Yeah, yeah, yes, I love Save the Cat too. It's a good one. So just to structure narratives, it's the same thing really, but it's obviously quite different at the same time because it's visual versus literary. But yeah,
Right, the
which is
story is the same, but I think the writing of
right.
them are they're different beasts.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. So, and that goes into film adaptation as well, and right, all that stuff comes into play too if you're doing like novel adaptations and stuff. Like you said, you didn't really like the Harry Potter movies until you read the books, right?
Right.
Yeah, which is totally understandable. So, in fact, I saw Inherent Vice last night, the
I
movie
didn't know
with
that.
Joaquin Phoenix. Well, it's based on a Thomas Pynchon novel, and I read the novel and loved the movie. I went with a couple people who didn't read the novel, and they're like, so it's interesting how those things kind of cross over sometimes, right?
Right.
So you started this as a personal project to write your own novel, right?
Right.
And now it's become this website that has become, it seems fairly popular, right? I think a lot of
Yeah.
people used it as a resource, which maybe you didn't plan right away.
Yeah, it's definitely taken off more than originally expected.
Uh-huh.
It was personal, but at the same time, I wanted to write a book, and I kept hearing everywhere, "Oh, you need a platform. You need a platform,"
Mhm.
and that seemed also overwhelming. Maybe I'm just easily overwhelmed, but it was kind of a two birds with one stone thing, where I was like, okay, I'll post this, and then I'll just start. This is how I'll get my name out there and start connecting with people.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, that makes sense. So it was kind of a strategic move as well, right? Because you're going
Right.
to write the novel, so you're building your platform as you go. Um,
Right. And
yeah.
my brother has a really popular blog. His name is Matt Frazier. He's no meat athlete. So I've watched him build his blog over, I guess it's been 5 or 6 years now, and he has taught me so much about like platform building and sort of not, I guess, online marketing, but marketing yourself.
Yep.
And he gets to do his blog as his job now, which is really cool.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Writing for a living, no matter what you're writing, I think would be a pretty good, a pretty good way to
Yeah.
go, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Fantastic. So he's built it enough. So you got some tips from him.
Yeah, and before I started this blog, I used to write for his blog. Like once, I used to do a weekly post like a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
So I learned some stuff about copywriting and
Right.
what an internet reader will and won't stick around for.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. I know when I started my blog, I was writing really long pieces, and I know people weren't reading them, right? So I
Yeah,
shortened
I
it
mean
as I went.
it's frustrating because you can spend a lot of time on something and then it's the wrong medium. I mean, and
Right.
I know I do the same thing. If I go to a website and there aren't enough subheadings, I'm like, oh, so hard. So
Yeah, totally.
I'm part of the problem.
Right. Yeah. No, we all are. We all are. It's hard to read on screen, and there's so much other stuff to read. I get it for sure.
Right.
That's really funny. You're building your platform with this, right? It's really taken off, obviously, because it's a great resource for people, right?
Thanks.
So how is your novel going?
My novel is okay. I did participate in NaNoWriMo. I did not finish, even though I tried super hard. I'm at like 25,000 words,
Oh, okay.
which I'm shooting for 90, as I said, 90,000, which I published was the correct was the shoot for number. Honestly, it's really hard for me to balance this. I hear this is a problem for other people, but this platform thing has really taken over a lot of my life.
Yeah.
And there's like only so much room in my mind for like obsession, and right now I get obsessed with all I can think about are these 3 novels and picking out the elements. So sometimes I can switch gears and then I'm thinking only about my novel, and then I miss a week on Better Novel Project. So it's for me, I have a hard time balancing my time.
Yeah.
But what is nice is that I do use my posts, so I can just bang out one scene based on what I've written. The problem is now that I need to fill those out more. Like I have a lot of plot points following along with what I've been doing online, but not enough actual like development within there.
Right. Right. So you've got kind of a really strong outline, it sounds like, or like you said, plot points, beats, as the self-publishing guys call them. Right. Yeah. But I feel like filling that out will be a lot easier when you have that structure in place, right?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to do this.
Right.
But then when I get home at night and it's time, after dinner and I have my free time, it's like I have to decide what to work on, and a lot of times it's probably because it's easier. I respond to my social media things, I respond to emails, and then I start writing a post. So, I try to
Right.
I try to move it all into different compartments, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I totally understand that because I've got my own platform building and my own nonfiction as well as my fiction, and sometimes one takes a hit for the other, right? So,
right, and plus
yeah.
you have a day job, right? So.
Kind of, yeah. I'm lucky enough to have. Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have a job that I'm not like in an office 9 to 5 or anything like that, because I teach, so my teaching schedule is pretty sparse in a certain way, I mean, I have grading and prep and all that stuff, but I don't have to. Yeah, I don't have to get in my car and drive anywhere except for 3 times a week. So yeah, I do have a day job, but not like a lot of people do. But yeah, I mean, there's all this stuff to juggle, like you said, right? And
that's why I got into the audiobooks, because of my commute. That's how I get my reading done.
That's a really good idea. I've been listening to podcasts lately, and that's crowded out all my audiobook listening. That's a balance I need to find, just because I want to listen to audiobooks as well, but I'm like, well, there's podcasts to listen to, whatever. So.
Right. Well, yeah. I'm an Audible person, so now that I have like the pressure to use my credits. Right,
yeah. It's like, I paid for these, I need to use them, right? Yeah, I totally understand that. So that's cool, and that's a different type of reading. That works. I mean, it's a good way to use your time for sure. So I didn't mean to put you on the spot on the novel thing, because I remember when I was finishing my dissertation, people would say, "How far are you along? How far are you along?" And I was like, "Oh, please don't ask me that question." So, right. But I was just curious.
Obviously, it's like what I'm doing, so I get asked about it a lot. More, I don't mind talking about my progress. I get more cagey about what's actually going on in the novel. I'm like, if I talk about it, it's dead.
Okay. Well, that was going to be my next question, so I'll skip that. So.
I mean, I can, like, just very vaguely, it's more of a science fiction novel, and it's young adults. I'm really interested in AI, like artificial intelligence, and like the singularity, like the coming convergence of bio and machine. So it deals with a lot of the ethical implications of combining computers and humans, but in a fun YA adventure sense.
Cool. That sounds awesome. That sounds really great. So
hopefully.
I really like that stuff too. And I've been reading more and more young adult myself, so I will definitely be interested in your novel when you're done with it. So that sounds great.
Yeah, hopefully this year.
Hopefully this year, 2015, right?
Yes.
So, well, if you've got 25,000 of 90 and you've got a strong outline already out, you should.
Well, yeah.
It seems like you should be able to do that, right?
I'm counting the 25,000 as written part, not the outline part. I mean, like, that's the nice prose part.
Oh, and then an outline on top of that.
Yeah.
Oh, you should have no problem finishing that this year. Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, I found that when I've been tracking my writing lately, and I find that when I have an outline, or I have at least a strong idea in the middle of a project of what's going on, I write a lot faster and I stay focused for longer. It's that I don't know what I'm doing next thing that gets you stuck, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people find that. So that's what I found. Because I was never an outliner. I was always a pantser, by the seat of my pants. And I've changed because I'm like, well, if I know what I'm going to write ahead of time, then I can just write it, just fill it out, and that's so much better. I've found,
Right.
So
yeah, with short stories, I always pants them in college. I just whatever I felt. But they were much more emotionally driven. So somehow that works better with pantsing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like you said earlier, a short story is more slice of life, so you don't have to have a huge setup. And there's this is different, right? You don't have to have the end doesn't have to be an end as much as it does in a novel, right? For example, that sort of thing. So
right.
Yeah. I know short stories are hard for me because of that, because I'm wordy. But for some people, they really work. But I think going to the novel stage for you is the opposite, right? You're like, okay, how do I fill this out into a novel length? How do I get, make it more character driven, whatever, right? And plot, and like you said, lots of young adult adventure. Because if you're writing a young adult novel, it has to be lots of stuff going on, right?
Right. Exactly.
Right. Which probably makes it fun to write, right?
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, is this too ridiculous? Like, is this, like, another thing goes wrong? But, once you start looking at the other novels, they really do have that many stumbles along the way.
Yeah, definitely. I was starting to read, the Pendragon series by chance?
No.
I don't remember the author. I don't have it near me. It's a young adult thing where this little young boy, I think he's like 13 or something like that, goes to these different dimensions and stuff. And it's constantly, all these crazy obstacles and stumbling blocks and how he feels about it and the anguish he has, and all that stuff, that you expect in a young adult novel. But it's fun and it just moves like crazy. And it's, I'm not a 13-year-old boy anymore, but it's still fun to read, right? So,
right. You should read the first Harry Potter. You might like it.
I will read it for sure. I know it's in this house somewhere. I know we have it, so it's just a matter of finding it and doing that. So I think I will, because like I said, the movies didn't grab me, but I think the novel might. So yeah, I think I will. The novel I was writing is I think it's a new adult novel. I didn't really know that term when I started writing it, but then I found out about what new adult is, and I was like, oh, that's actually what I'm writing, and I actually rewrote it for that genre, which is, I guess, is like young adult plus, right?
Yeah, that's a very hot genre right now. It's like an up-and-coming thing.
Yeah, so and that's one of the reasons I kind of tailored it that way too when I rewrote it. But I'm still in that stage of like, I need to rewrite it again. I need to edit, and all that.
That would be really interesting. Do you do it? Is it a male protagonist?
It is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. The only ones I've seen have been, like a younger Sex and the City type. So I think it would be really cool to see it from a dude's side.
Yeah, it's kind of a near future kind of like, he's kind of a hacker, so there's a lot of technology involved and stuff, and it's, I'm trying for that like day after tomorrow kind of science fiction where it doesn't quite exist yet, but it could by by next week,
cool.
which is hard to do, but and as long as I write fast enough, I can do that,
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I'll keep you updated on that. We'll see. But it's been, and I was just thinking about this today that I'm going to go through. I'm going to take a look at your outline and see how much mine maps out. I bet you a lot of it already fits.
Yeah.
But I bet you when I look at your outline, there will be a lot where I'm like, oh, I should probably do that, or that might be a good way to go. You
Yeah,
know?
that is the one way that I hear, I think most often when people say they've used the outline,
Hmm.
they've already written something and then they are comparing it afterward
Right.
and getting really excited where it matches up. And I mean, because to intuitively to do those things, I mean, it is a skill, so that's cool. And then other people have said they use it when, I guess Ashley said when Ashley Carlson said that when she struggled with the scene, then she would look, maybe didn't know what to write next, and would look at the outline for an idea, like of something that other ones have done.
Right, and I'll put a link in the show notes to her guest post on your site as well as
Cool.
the site in general, so people can look at that. Because I actually did a guest post talking about like here's how I use the outline, right? And I think that's a really good way to do it. You know, you write your own thing and you compare it because you know you're doing this, you know, great kind of service to writers where you're saying here are the elements of these young adult novels, and I think it works. So she's right, she writes young adult,
Right.
but I think it probably works with other genres as well to at least to an extent.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. I think YA though it has some other specific things, and
Hmm.
the outline is getting pretty full now. So I am currently reading 3 more books to start a new outline for a different genre.
Oh boy,
So that's
do you want
coming.
to do you want to reveal what the genre is, or is it a secret?
I can tell you. I'll tell you one because I'm thinking about actually doing 2 at the same time this year, just to give myself a little more freedom. In consider because I've just been like my whole like tunnel vision this year has been in the YA, but the one genre I'm definitely doing is the thriller, so mystery / thriller, but not cozy mystery, which I consider a different genre.
Yeah.
Because I think the Hunger Games has a lot of thriller elements, and I really like that, and I feel like it's page turners. Sorry, the idea that your novel should be a page turner should be, I think, in any genre. So I think that analyzing the thrillers will really be useful for other genres too.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I think thriller, like that's the term you hear with thrillers is, oh, it's a page turner, right? Or action, I guess too, action adventure. But you're right. Any successful book is going to be one where you want to read that next chapter, you want to turn that page, right? So
Right.
that's a good approach. So
And I mean, I think
thrillers.
mystery elements, yeah, are in Harry Potter's basically like a cozy mystery, the first one at least.
Okay,
Secret,
okay,
yeah.
that sounds great. I can't wait to read those outlines as well, and then I'd be interested to see how those outlines compare to each other,
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Because yeah, the one thing
That'll be your
I
next project, right? You'll have your thriller outline, your mystery outline, you know, whatever it is, and then you'll start looking at the outlines and make more index cards, and then never finish your novel. Don't do that. No,
I know.
that'd be interesting. Yeah, that sounds great. I look forward to that. And you'll do it like you did the last one, just do it piece by piece, like you know,
Yeah, I
post
think
by
so.
post, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
I might try to speed it up. I mean, because this past year has been only on those 3 books, which is cool. But those are also like probably the best-selling books. At least Harry Potter is like of all time. So any
Yeah.
genre that I do after this is going to be slightly less popular, obviously.
Hmm.
And I want people to not get bored. So hopefully I
Yeah.
can chug through it faster. And maybe
Oh
it'll be
yeah.
easier this time.
Yeah, I'm sure it will because you've done it before. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true because you know, I I can't think of thriller books off the top of my head like the way I would a young adult book. If you say young adult, I say Harry Potter, Hunger Games, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, you're right. That might be a more kind of a niche audience where you might have people might not be as there might not be as many people interested in it, but the people who are interested in it will be very interested in it,
Right.
right?
Well, like Da Vinci Code is one that I read for this. So I mean
Oh
that was
yeah.
kind of a mystery. So
Right. The Da Vinci Code. I forgot about that one. That I
right.
have read. I have read that. So, yeah, Dan Brown. He can. Yeah, that's page turner for sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's great. So then the idea is try to figure out how to extrapolate those principles into any other genre that you might write.
Right. And then
Right.
people could pick and choose a la carte. Um, I mean, I think one of the biggest criticisms I get for the project are people who write it and say, writing isn't a fill-in-the-blank formula. And
Right.
I always want to be like, I know, it's not that easy.
I know I'm a writer. I'm a writer. I know.
So yeah, like the outlines aren't there to substitute for some sort of, like the creative spark is its own thing outside the outline.
Right.
So yeah, it's up to the other writer on the other side to decide how to use the information that I'm putting out there.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why you get so many writers who are writing something and then comparing, rather than going, okay, I'm going to write something. Oh, good, Chrstine Frazier's made this outline. I'm just going to follow it. I don't think that people who want to write generally would do that anyway, right? And that's probably where that criticism comes from, where people are like, it's not a fill in the blank, and you're like, yeah, I know, but there are common elements, and there's no harm in deconstructing them to see how yours fits, right? Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me, but yeah, I get why people might say that.
But having gone through the process of this, I feel like a totally different writer. Like the way that I understand like what a scene is, and the just seeing how each scene pushes the story forward wasn't something I was really aware of before.
Right, because in short stories you don't have that quite as much.
Right, exactly.
Right, yeah. What's been your biggest surprise?
The biggest surprise from doing the project?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it would be more like when I get weird emails, not weird emails, but when I get emails from like other countries, like when they're like, oh, English isn't my first language, but I'm writing this novel and this has been so helpful. So my biggest surprise is when people from outside, like my immediate area, are using what I'm putting out there.
Oh, that's amazing. So you have global reach now.
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
that's kind of nice, right? Yeah.
Well, the internet is global, right? So it's
yes, it is. Yeah.
It is very weird, and I get really excited. I'm also so impressed. I'm like, how are you reading this in English? And that seems so hard.
Yeah. That seems kind of really hard to me. I was a French major in college, and I would never dream of writing a novel in French. It's crazy, right? Writing something like that in not your primary language would be difficult. But English is if you're going to write a novel, you want to write it in English, right? That's your biggest reach. Well, that's interesting. So you have people emailing you from other places saying, I don't speak English. English isn't their primary language, but they're using your outline to help them. That's great. That is fantastic. I like I said, I think it's a great project. I never would have thought to do it myself. It's a great way to tackle a problem too, because you were like, I want to write a novel. I don't know what to do. Hey, let's look at these other novels and see what their common elements are. Right?
I'm all about bite-sized pieces and just making it doable.
Yeah, which I think is a huge thing with any big project. You have to break it down and do one step at a time and figure out what makes it work, right? I think that's where people get overwhelmed writing novels or doing other big projects. They get bogged down in the big stuff. Right.
And then just show up and do the work.
Right. Exactly. I think it's a great strategy. So are you trying to figure out a big animal that your protagonist has to kill?
Yeah, so it's harder. The way I have it set, I do have the animal already.
Okay.
There is like a scene, but it might be like part robot, so we'll see.
Ah, nice.
Yep.
That's a good twist on it, right? Yeah. Are there this is just for me personally, maybe, but are there other like YA novels that involve the same sorts of things that you're doing that are like it sounds like kind of far future, maybe science fiction kinds of things?
What I'm doing in my novel or the project?
Yeah, in your novel.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess Divergent uses some. I mean, that is a future thing.
Oh yeah.
The technology is. They use the people kind of like zombies, but that's.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know because what I'm aiming for is maybe slightly more middle grade, like the younger end of YA, and I actually haven't read that genre extensively, which is maybe a mistake.
Maybe not. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah. Divergent actually works really well with the outline, like the lining up parts, which I might write a post about too later. But
Okay.
it has a lot of it goes with the outline pretty well.
I see. I've seen the movie, but I haven't read the book, so so I don't. Yeah, but I could see those elements being in there for sure. I was just asking for my own personal because I would totally read that. so I'll just wait for yours and I'll read yours and that'll be that because I love that kind of stuff.
I'm worried about Big Hero 6 though. I'm afraid they might have stolen my idea.
Big Hero 6.
It's like the new. I think it's like Pixar or DreamWorks movie. It's like about a lovable robot.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that. Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. Well, maybe when they might have stolen your idea, but when your novel comes out, maybe you could, capitalize on the attention from that, right? Because, people can do both. I know, I always have that. I think most writers have that fear, right? You're in the middle of a project and something comes out and you're like, no, that's what I'm doing, right? You get that.
So, I used to feel more that way, but now that I've seen so many similarities, like, everyone tells their story different, and I think the idea of someone taking your idea is almost absurd because what you would do with it and what they would do with it is different. So
I agree completely. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. When you have that confidence of like, look, I've got my own voice, I got my own angle. It doesn't really matter if someone's done kind of the same theme or the same stuff because there are only so many stories, as we said earlier, right? So that's great. So this project's helped you with that too, then realizing that your story doesn't have to be like completely unique where it's something no one's ever seen before. It's your take on it and your voice.
Right.
Yeah. That's fantastic. That's great. Well, thank you so much for being on. I know you have to get going, but thanks for agreeing to be on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you. So
before we go, I just wanted to say that right now I'm doing a co-project with my brother called Write and Run 31. So it's where we've been encouraging both of our readers. So he has a readership of runners and mine are writers. And it's like kind of a January thing of doing some sort of exercise and some sort of writing every day. So I just wanted to say that that's out there.
It's called Write and Run 31. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you could, yes, it does. If you could send me a link, I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, because every day, it's basically a Facebook group, and it's just like a accountability encouragement thing.
I see.
But every morning I post a writing prompt. So if you are at least in the market for a fun writing prompt, I am laboring very hard in creating those, which are surprisingly difficult.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I believe they're difficult. Yeah, for sure. Well, that sounds great. Running. I don't know. Where do you live?
Oh, I live in D.C.
Okay, so I don't know what the weather is like there, but it was 5 degrees here today, so I'm not going outside. But yeah, some kind of exercise would probably be a good idea, because we writers have a very sedentary lifestyle, a lot of us. So it's good to get up and move around a little bit, right? Yeah. So yeah, I'll put links to that. Link to that in the show notes, which people can find it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
And before you go, where can people find you?
BetterNovelProject.com, obviously. And then I'm on basically every social media unit there is. So Twitter, I'm BetterNovelProj. And then I have Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. If you just search Better Novel Project, it should appear. Yeah. Oh, and Goodreads.
And Goodreads, yeah. So from BetterNovelProject.com, people can find all your social media as well, right?
Yeah, there's links.
Yeah, I know you're very active on Twitter.
Yeah, that's been a big success for getting people over to my site.
Yeah, it worked for me. That's all I got. That's all I got there. So great. Yeah, this has been fun. Thanks a lot.
Okay, great. See ya. Have a good day.
All right. Yeah, me too. Bye. Thanks for listening to the WET Podcast. This was episode 17. That was Chrstine Frazier. I am Eric Marshall. You can find me at emarsh on Twitter. You can find the show notes at ericmarshall.net/wet. That's Eric with a K, Marshall with 2 L's.net/wet. And I do appreciate reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Thanks a lot. See you next week.